2 Halloweens ago, I wrote a short story to go with some rooms I'd made with the new Freaky Forest theme, but there was far more to the tale than was told. Once there were 4 friends, brave adventurers all, who decided to go on a quest to find the fabled Freaky Forest one Halloween. Rain, the King Charles Cocker Spaniel, was a fashionista. Mask, the raccoon, was an explorer. Autumn, the Himalayan cat, was the practical one. And Woods, the spotted jaguar, was looking for adventure. It was Halloween, and the 4 friends met to go trick-or-treating together after school. Autumn was dressed as a fairy princess. Mask was a pirate. Woods was a football star. And Rain was Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. They were having a great time in their costumes, and the candy haul was impressive. But Woods had something else on his mind. Rumors had been circulating at school that day about the famous Freaky Forest, which everyone had heard of, but no one they knew had ever seen. It was a remote, wild area of the forest where fabulous parties were said to take place every year on Halloween night. Some of the kids had bragged about all the crazy things they'd do if they ever found the Freaky Forest, but no one had ever really tried, because the truth was, the forest was haunted. Woods had thought about this all day and hatched a plan.
This year, I want to do something different.
He told the others.
Something adventurous. I think we should go on a quest to find the Freaky Forest.
The friends talked it over and agreed that this was just the adventure they needed to make this Halloween the best ever. Woods, Autumn, Mask, and Rain walked out of town through the woods and fields to the entrance to the Wild Wood. It was here that Woods planned for them to begin the quest. The Wild Wood was a tangled patch of forest with an eccentric reputation. Rain felt a shiver run down her back as she stepped through the opening in the old stone wall. The stone owl guardians stared silently as they passed. Autumn bravely took the lead. Mask, who was familiar with this part of the forest, told her to cross the creek. When she stepped onto the vine-covered old bridge, the lamps flickered on eerily and startled everyone. They followed the creepy creek through the wild wood until the trees grew thinner and they found themselves in the mushroom meadows. This seemed like a silly place at first, overflowing with brightly colored mushrooms of all shapes and sizes. The friends strolled along the creek, chatting and admiring the view, but despite the bright sunshine and the festive fall trees, there was a strangeness to the place, a sort of echoing stillness in the air. The conversation stalled, and they went on in silence. The quiet was deafening, Mask would say later. Rain sat down for a moment beside a small pond and gazed at her reflection in the still water. She leaned closer to get a clearer look, staring deeper and leaning closer until Wood's shout roused her just in time to keep her from falling in.
That's the infamous perilous pond,
he told her.
It has hypnotic powers and you don't want to fall in there.
Rain hurried away from the pond and they continued on along the creek. The ground started getting softer and wetter, and before they knew it, the 4 friends were lost in the spooky swamp. It was overgrown and steamy, with weird gurgling noises and purple swamp gas lighting up the trail. There were paths going every which way and bridges leading in every direction. The lights flickered on each time they crossed a bridge. It was uncanny. Woods wondered nervously what was living in the water to make it bubble like that. The trail was confusing even for Mask, who had reached the limit of his knowledge of this part of the forest. The friends went this way and that and around in circles for some time before they found their way out of the spooky swamp and arrived with relief at the cobweb clearing. The clearing felt much less spooky than the swamp, at least partly because it was on dry ground and had no weird lighting effects, except for the bridge, of course. A number of cobweb hammocks had been slung around a small clearing in the trees. The friends decided that this would be a good place to stop and rest. They took turns standing guard, however, just in case the spiders who had spun the webs returned unexpectedly, and Woods never did manage to fall asleep. Still, it was a good rest, though Autumn said afterwards that her fur felt somewhat sticky. The friends saw that the sun was getting low in the sky and hastened on. Soon, they found the trail leading to Creepy Cavern Canyon, which was a local legend. Tales abounded of hordes of untold riches in the caves guarded by extremely unfriendly bats. Many an unwary adventurer had gone in search of treasure only to be terrorized and turned back by the angry bats and other unnamed guardians more menacing than they. Woods, Autumn, Mask, and Rain hurried up the trail, taking great care not to venture near the caves or to disturb anything. They had no time to waste because the sun was setting. As twilight fell, they pressed on until they finally emerged from the canyon and saw before them the lights of the houses of the freaky forest, with trick or treat in full swing. At last, they had arrived. The freaky forest was everything the four friends had been told it would be. The place was alive with music, lights, and trick-or-treaters in wonderful costumes. The forest residents were cheerful and friendly, and their houses had some of the best spooky decorations they'd ever seen. And the treats. The treats were exceptional, most of them homemade and all of them delicious. The friends trooped from house to house munching happily. Then they saw what they'd come here hoping to see. Dozens of costumed partygoers climbing the front steps of an elegant old Victorian mansion that looked more than a little bit haunted. They joined the throng and entered the party house. And what a party it was! Everyone there was having a marvelous time. There were cool, spooky music and fun party games. The food was even more delicious than the treats they'd collected in the forest. The house itself looked wonderfully haunted and was filled with an array of special effects. I wonder how they do that, thought Autumn, as she admired the lightning flashing through the windows and the portrait whose eyes followed her as she moved about the room. The four friends agreed that the quest for the freaky forest had been a spectacular success, and that this had indeed been the best Halloween ever. Then, the clock began to strike 12. All of the guests started leaving, calling goodbye and happy Halloween to each other as they went.
Time to go,
said Woods.
Shouldn't we find our hosts and thank them?
Wondered Rain. Oddly, they hadn't met their hosts all evening. Suddenly, the house was too quiet. The four friends hurried into the hall in time to see the last few guests going out the front door. They quickly followed across the porch and down the steps. "Good night," called the last party guest and vanished into the trees. As the clock struck midnight, the four friends found themselves alone in the forest. They turned to look at the party house and gasped. The stately Victorian mansion that they had just been inside looked completely derelict, in ruins. Most of the roof was missing, and the house looked like it was about to collapse. It was almost as if 100 years had passed since they went inside. The four friends stared at each other in dismay. "How is that even possible?" demanded Autumn.
"This place is giving me the creeps,"
said Rain. The forest was dark. All of the friendly lights had gone out, and they couldn't see any of the houses. Even the forest itself seemed different. Mask turned to Woods and said, "So, how do we get home?" Woods looked uncomfortable.
I thought we'd just go back the way we came,
he said slowly.
"But which way is that?"
Rain asked.
"We're lost."